Folks, we are live in San Francisco, Build 2014. I'm Dan Fernandez, and you are?
Mads Christensen.
Mads, now
yes.
you have been, I saw you in a keynote earlier.
Yes, that happened yesterday morning, showing some cool stuff for web developers in both the Visual Studio and Azure. Because the web team, we've had a huge release here with the second update coming out for Visual Studio 2013. So I was able to show just a little bit of what's coming. And then earlier today, I had a broader session where we looked at a lot more cool stuff.
Cool, so remember, this is interactive, so if you're watching, maybe you guys got a cell phone, you can ask questions. The goal here is really probably just to stump you. We're going to ask questions until we find out. You're going to give us some product leaks. It's going to be great.
All right.
So again, make this interactive, send us your questions, and we'll get all your questions answered. And I'm sorry, I'm just trying to put you on the spot.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
We don't have any secrets in the ASP.NET Web Tools team, so bring them on.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's just, look at the source. It's in GitHub. Come on.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that. You had another session, and what did you talk about? Was this the Web Essentials one or another one?
Yes, so it occurred to us that we've never really explained what Web Essentials is in the context of the web team and Visual Studio. So I kind of went through and explained that Web Essentials is this extension for Visual Studio that is open source. It is completely driven by the community. It's for the community. It's owned by the community. It's not a Microsoft property or anything like that. So we have a lot of contributors, and we have a lot of interested people that fork the project and play around with it and help generate good ideas. So that's really what it's all about. It's that notion of it would be cool if, right? It would be cool if I could write websites and have this little feature.
Yeah.
And the question is then, how do you then write that feature, and how do you get it in the hands of thousands of people?
Sure.
And Web Essentials is now used by thousands of people, if not hundred thousands of people. So we now have a vehicle that lets the community very easily create those cool ideas that they have, and able to see them, distributed to hundreds of thousands of people. So that's really cool.
So are you like the benevolent dictator, if you will, of Web Essentials, as they like to say?
I am, yes. So I started out just being the single developer on the whole thing, and last year at Build I open sourced it. And since it got open sourced, there's a lot of people that is being involved now. But I'm sort of the gatekeeper, and so my role has shifted a little bit from being the developer to being still the developer, but also program manager, making sure that the stuff that's coming in, the pull requests being submitted, are sort of in the spirit of Web Essentials. It has to be about web. And also, I kind of know what we're doing on the team, so it might not always work well if I have a feature coming in and I know this specific feature, it's coming out in a month in an update or something like that. Right. So I make sure that nothing there goes wrong. So, yeah.
That's got to be a tough one for sure.
Yeah.
Again, so we do have some questions, and we're going to make this nice and interactive here. So, just starting, a question from Paul: is TypeScript going to replace JavaScript?
That is a good question. I do not have the answer to. I think Anders is probably the right guy to ask that question, but we're definitely seeing an uptake in TypeScript, and there's a lot of positive buzz around the web. So JavaScript definitely has its place, and so does TypeScript. So I'm as curious and excited about this as anyone else to see where it goes, and how big it is going to be, like everywhere. Is it more for big projects only, or are people going to adopt it for even small things? And I'm just excited to see where it's going to head up.
Yeah, I think the other thing too is we as developers always think it's like a this or that. Like use it when it's appropriate, right? There's no reason it can't. It doesn't have to be an either or, right?
No.
You can do both.
Yeah.
So getting to a couple of more questions here. Olaf Dalbums asks, thanks for a great session, Mads. Oh, look at that. How much do you pay these people?
I paid them a sticker, probably. I brought Visual Studio stickers to my session.
Good.
That's why.
Bribery. Will there be integrations of Grunt, Karma, and other Node.js tools in VS Web Essentials?
Yes, to all of it.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, Web Essentials or VS, right? It depends on where it lands. We're actually, right now we're prototyping, not in Web Essentials, but in the VS web team. We're actually prototyping Grunt and Gulp integration. So, we want to make sure that if you want to use those task runners, you should have great experience in Visual Studio. And we're still on an early prototype stage, so we don't know exactly where we're going to land. But it's not going to take long, and we'll have something to show, and hopefully demo, and we can do videos. We can meet maybe even on Channel 9.
Yeah, maybe even
we can
on
show
Channel
off some
9.
stuff. We have some really cool stuff, and we've been working with, actually with one of the core contributors of the Gulp project, which is sort of an alternative to Grunt. So we're pretty sure that what we have lined up is a good idea. So now we just have to build it. So that's where we are with that, and so Karma was mentioned here as the unit test runner for JavaScript and so on, and that's just one out of many, and we're looking at them all.
Yeah, so, all right. Visual Studio includes a number of things. You know, obviously AngularJS, Bootstrap, a number of things. Even if you file new, it's including these frameworks, whether they're CSS or JS frameworks. How do you all decide what actually goes in? Like, hey, this is going in file new website. Like
Yeah.
this is you got to be this tall to ride kind of thing. How do you make those calls?
Well, largely based on where the world is moving and where we can see that our users and customers are moving as well. And so they're asking us, can you please add support for this and this, right? So we can kind of see where do we get most requests. We have all these channels like User Voice, we have the connect.microsoft.com, we have Twitter and all sorts of different possibilities for our users to tell us what they like. And we can very clearly see that Angular for Java as a JavaScript framework and Bootstrap as a CSS framework are definitely the two big ones. So we're going to go all in on that, and we're going to have, I demoed some new Angular IntelliSense. We do have improved IntelliSense for that in the update 2 with Web Essentials. And we're going to keep improving that, and we're going to come out with a lot of additional features around those two frameworks, but not just them. I mean, there's a lot of good frameworks out there, and we're trying to lift everything up, like all the different frameworks up. No matter what you're using, you should have a great experience. But we might want to say, okay, we're going to single out Angular, JS, and Bootstrap, and say, okay, we're going to
things. You can provide a much deeper experience than the regular sort of.
Yes. So we can take it that extra notch. But if you don't want to use that, we're still going to ensure that you're going to get a great experience. So the way we're looking at it, we're going to lift all front-end development frameworks and so on. We're going to lift that up to a super high level, and then we're going to single out a few that we really think are really good, and give it a little bit extra, right? So.
Okay. Yeah. Good answer. Good answer. So Mirik asked here, hi, will CodeLens functionality ever make it into VS 2013 Professional Edition?
Oh, that is not a question for me, but I mean, I can't actually answer it because I don't know, but if you look at how some features have previously only been in the higher SKUs, like Ultimate, they tend to kind of fall down in the premiums and professionals and so on over time. But with this specific one, I have no idea.
Yeah, CodeLens is an interesting one because I absolutely love it, and then you realize it's only in the Ultimate SKU, and then folks ask, hey, I really need this, like my whole team needs this collaboration, but it's an awesome feature.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So Peter asks, is one of the long-term goals of your team to have a single IDE Visual Studio capable to handle at the level of C#, F#, VB, all the most used languages and frameworks on the web, like one IDE to rule them all?
I like that. That sounds good.
Can we make that the Visual Studio tagline?
If I understand it correctly, does it mean that there's only going to be one version of Visual Studio, like Ultimate, and then any other versions are not here? Like if that's the case, then I don't know. Like, actually the funny thing is that the ASP.NET and the Web Tools team, we're not part of the Visual Studio organization. We're actually part of Azure. So we're not, so I don't know. We're not part of that organization that makes those decisions, basically.
Sure.
But I really like that idea. That would be cool.
Yeah. Actually, maybe you could just talk quickly about some of the CSS stuff before we get to this specific question and the less in SAS support, because there's new stuff coming, and I guess this would be the update 2 time frame, for lack of a better word, or I guess build announcements.
Yeah, we have, so last year, almost like exactly a year ago when we did update 2 for Visual Studio 2012, we introduced CoffeeScript and Less. So CoffeeScript is sort of an alternative to JavaScript, and Less is an alternative to CSS. And we've actually been expanding on our support for Less. And people have been asking, when do we get SAS? So SAS and Less are sort of similar, and they solve a lot of the same issues. And we've been waiting a little bit with that because we wanted to make sure that our Less support was absolutely perfect. And that's sort of difficult sometimes when the the compiler changes, and we don't control the compiler. Actually, Web Essentials uses compiler that's running on Node. So Web Essentials runs Node.js in the background to do all the compilation.
Web Essentials runs Node.js. How does that work actually?
Well, when you download and install Web Essentials, you also have Node.exe right there. It's not installed globally. You can't use it like in a global path.
Got it.
So whenever Web Essentials have to do something that involves Node, it basically just calls the process directly. But I mean, if you have Node, you can go in and you can update the compiler, find out where Web Essentials is installed, like in the extension folder somewhere under your username, app data, roaming, or something like that. And you can go in there and say npm update Node Node less or Node SAS or any of those compilers. So you're in control of that actually.
Sure.
Yeah. So since we don't control the compilation layer, we just use whatever is out there. It's sort of difficult we have to make sure to always keep up. The editor is always on the latest version of support for the compiler. And we were missing a few things for less, so we want to make sure we had all that covered. And then we attacked SAS. So now finally we have SAS support, we have full SAS editor with IntelliSense, go-to definition for variables, mixins, across files. So this is really cool, right? So what makes SAS and less so cool is that you can have you can separate your code into different files and then just import them. Sort of think like C#. You can have different classes and then you can do using statements, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So you can really refactor your code.
The
and make it
design
real
for
nice.
our home page, and then maybe the HR page is different, and you can imagine people factoring it differently. So then you can just reuse it if you're on the HR.
Exactly.
version.
And then when you compile, it just turns into one CSS file, right?
Right.
So you get the same benefit with you can get your nice refactoring and so on. So IntelliSense actually flows through all that chain of imports that you're doing, all your using statements, so to speak. So that makes it a really, really nice experience.
Very cool. Very cool.
So, oh yeah, go ahead, sorry.
No. So I was going to get to Sakib's question, which is, any plans to make something like type CSS?
Oh, like TypeScript, but for CSS?
Yeah.
How would that work?
I think it's trying, well, because normally for TypeScript, it's really adding classes, right?
Yes.
So I have interfaces, I can do things like inheritance. With JavaScript, I'm not sure it necessarily makes sense on the CSS side. Or
maybe
if type CSS is a project that we don't know about.
Yeah, well that could be, but you know what it could be though is, instead of less and SAS, what if we had something that looked like TypeScript, but it would do the same thing but for CSS? Maybe it's a different syntax.
So it's like a programmable version instead of declarative kind of thing?
Maybe that's what he means, I don't know, but you know, if that is what you mean, no, we don't plan on doing that. But hey, you know, Web Essentials is open source. Add it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
That would be cool.
Zippy V, classic Niner. Any love for PHP?
Yes, we love PHP. We don't have native support for it. We don't have support for it in Web Essentials either. There is a fantastic extension for that, and I forgot what it's called, but these guys, I think they're sitting over there in Europe and Czech Republic, and they have been building PHP extensions for Visual Studio for years. I think they support.
Is it the Zend guys? Zend PHP?
It could be.
Okay.
And they're I think 2008, Visual Studio 2008, all the way up to the latest version we're on today. And they have full project systems with IntelliSense, with all sorts of things. So go to the extension gallery and just search for PHP. It's going to be right up there. They have a lot of downloads. It's pretty popular.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. So Colin asks, what quirky name would you give a JS or CSS framework? That's Slurpee, Burpee, Frisbee. So if you had to, what's the silliest or quirkiest name for a JavaScript framework?
I don't know. There's a lot of funny ones out there. Batman JS comes to mind.
Which one?
Batman JS.
Batman JS? I haven't seen Batman JS.
Okay, that's a good one. I think all those names are good.
Wasn't there like Unicorns and Ponies JS at one point where you could add, it was like an April Fool's Day thing where in case you wanted to ponify your website?
I'm sure it's a real thing now.
It probably is on V2. It's going to be great. Heaven's Revenge asks, does Visual Studio have a drag and drop UI designer for WinJS, jQuery, etc., similar to the other .NET UI designer?
So I assume that we're talking about in the web context here. For building websites and not for building Windows Store apps. But,
right.
No. The short answer is no. The designer we have is tied to web forms. So you know we can switch to design view, and you can drag and drop controls from the toolbox and so on. What we did in Visual Studio 2012 was to take all the functionality that was previously only accessible from the design view, and we moved that into the editor. So any of your ASP.NET Web Forms controls now have a smart tag, and they've had that since 2012. If you have a grid view, you can invoke like wizards and column designers and all that sort of stuff.
Right.
So we made sure that you don't have to rely on the designer for those tasks. But we don't have that for, let's say, Razor, MVC, and so on. Even by default, it doesn't work for static HTML. You actually have to right-click your static HTML file and say Open With, and then choose Web Form Editor, and then you can go to the designer, and that will work. But the designer component is actually a little bit old. It's there are some front page dependencies, and it is not up to par with HTML5 and CSS3. So in terms of WinJS, jQuery, and so on, we don't have a toolbox for widgets. I assume we talk about widgets here. We don't have that, but it's something we're actually looking into right now. So hopefully we're going to make this happen at some point.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Wow. Now I'm excited.
Yeah.
Interesting. Let's talk after this video. The other thing I should say is if they are talking about client development, meaning say a Windows Store app, we do have Blend, which does give you that sort of nice drag and drop experience. It does a number of things around HTML5, but that is only for store apps.
But what if Blend could use Browser Link to give them the source map of your server-driven web pages to do that same thing?
What do you think?
I'm just saying it's possible.
You're just saying it's possible. You're just throwing out teasers
I'm just throwing
here.
it out here, yeah. It is possible. We know it's possible, but
I can't wait to see the demo at Build 2015.
Yeah, don't wait for it. Don't hold your breath. This is we're just kind of playing around with ideas at this point.
Yeah. But I guess the point is there are investments in UI designers inside Microsoft Visual Studio.
Oh yeah.
And I'm excited to see what could happen there too. So Karl Heinzrang asks, will the Monaco IDE someday replace the Visual Studio IDE?
Yeah, I've been wondering the same thing. It looks really, really good. I'm jealous of the level of things that they can do there that I still haven't got in Web Essentials yet. And I saw some demo today. I think Chris Diaz was showing some Monaco stuff, and I'm going to go back and implement that in Web Essentials because that is cool. But whether or not it's going to fully replace Visual Studio, I don't know. That's up to the users. I think it's there. It works. It's great, and it can replace Visual Studio right now. If you're comfortable sitting in the browser, you've already replaced Visual Studio with Monaco. For you, it's fine. But then a lot of people, they probably like to have the full IDE experience and whatever that, there are a lot of other features that comes with that. So, but it works today, and it works great. And it does replace a lot of things if you want to. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, would you personally work in a browser?
I would probably use it a lot to do modifications of my running websites, in emergencies. I have already done that, so I love that part of it.
Yeah.
But I really like Visual Studio.
I do too. I think, and maybe this there's a reason I'm on the Visual Studio team, but yeah, I mean, like it's just a great product.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to necessarily replace it. Now, if the editor itself was actually like I'm in Visual Studio and it just happens to be in a browser context and I don't even know, and I get the same experience, same performance, same offline.
Yeah, that would be great.
Then yeah. At that point, I'm technology agnostic.
Yeah, I just want to feel at home. Like when I open Visual Studio, I get the sense of home.
Exactly.
Whenever I get the same thing in a browser, fine with me. I'm going for the browser.
Yeah.
Right, but that hasn't happened for me yet.
Yeah. Maybe it'll get there.
Yeah.
Matej asks, when will JSDoc snippet auto generation be supported in TypeScript files?
Yes, I'm not sure about that. So the TypeScript team, they've been working really hard on getting their 1.0 out the door, version 1.0. And I think what they're going to do next is that they're going to look at all this sort of tooling enhancements. So I hope that it's coming soon. But it's not my team that does it, so I don't know like time schedules or anything like that. But that would be a cool feature.
That's a good question, for
because
sure.
I had demoed. We actually have this in for JavaScript through Web Essentials. So maybe in the meantime, we could have the guy here asking the question. Maybe he wants to send a pull request with that feature enabling it for TypeScript.
Yeah?
That would be nice.
Yeah. Now, Gabriel Wolmarans asks, will it be possible to implement UML class diagrams for TypeScript in Web Essentials and VS API? So is this the idea is you could actually infer, I'm looking at, say, maybe like, there's a customer class address, and then a customer maybe, I don't know, has an address entity, and you can kind of reverse to the UML. I'm almost thinking like class designer for TypeScript or something like that. That's what I'm trying to understand.
Yeah, I would assume that since the TypeScript compiler understands all of your TypeScript, I would assume that it actually has what's needed to produce these sort of things, like get the class diagrams auto-generated and so on.
Yeah.
But whether or not it's in their roadmap to do soon or at sometimes in the future, I don't know. But they must be able to do it since they can compile your entire project right into a single JS file. So they must know everything about it. So I would assume it's there somewhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a couple questions here. Brett asks, any love for running .NET sites on Linux? Now, you're not really the guy to ask, but I'm going to ask it anyways.
Yes. Well, you can run Mono today. On Linux, and you can get a pretty good ASPX or ASP.NET experience. Actually, when I did BlockEngine.NET back 6-7 years ago, it actually ran on Mono, and I think it still does. And it took a little bit of effort to figure out, and Mono was in a different state back then, but the entire BlockEngine.NET actually runs cross-platform. So it's totally possible. But we have something in the works, and I'm not going to say anything about it here because I'm just going to leave it at that.
Okay. And now you mentioned BlockEngine.NET. Like, are you still working on that? Because it seems like Web Essentials is almost more than a full-time job.
Yeah.
Is BlockEngine.NET, is there an owner of that as well, or how's that work?
Yeah, the core team is actually still actively developing it, which is really cool. I have not been involved myself for quite a few years now, probably 4 years or so.
Okay.
But Web Essentials is not taking all my time. I've actually created a new blog engine called MiniBlog. I had this idea of saying, hey, what if I were to build BlockEngine.NET today with the latest HTML5 and CSS technologies, as well as the latest in ASP.NET? What would that look like?
Sure.
And I'm actually running my blog off of that today, but it's not something I make a big deal out of or anything. But
is that open source where people could play around and do their own mini? And I'm sorry, it's called MiniBlog.
It's all on my GitHub, so github.com/Mads Christensen.
Cool.
There's something called MiniBlog if you want to take a look. Yeah.
Okay, we'll increase the downloads by dozens right now. It's going to be great.
Yes, thank you.
So Olav Dalbom asks, Sidewaffle is an answer to Yeoman. What is the future of Sidewaffle? Will it be integrated into Web Essentials? Can a Sidewaffle be NuGet NPM packet? So why don't you explain Sidewaffle for people who aren't familiar with the templates and everything?
All right, so Sidewaffle is, that's basically Syed Hashimi and myself that wanted to bring richer templates into Visual Studio. Both project templates, so when you say file new project, it would be really nice if you can say file new project browser link extension or Chrome extension or AngularJS super duper fancy web app, right?
Sure.
And those templates do not exist today. So what if we, through the magic of MS Build, could create a project that allows users to very easily create project templates and item templates and code snippets and package them up in one simple installer, a Visual Studio extension that will give the user all these new possibilities and templates. And so that's Sidewaffle. Sidewaffle is actually two things. It's that one distribution of templates, the template pack itself. But actually, the other side of it is a NuGet package called Template Builder, and that's where the magic lives. So we've been working with Orchard, like the CMS, right, and Umbraco and some of these, NancyFX, some of these larger open source projects, and they have an interest because they want to have a Orchard template pack. So you can say, add new item, Orchard module, for instance, right?
Sure, sure.
And that's what the NuGet package called Template Builder does. It turns your Visual Studio extensibility project into a template pack. And it makes it really easy. I did a video with Syed on Robert Green's show a few weeks ago, actually. So go check out Channel 9, the Visual Studio Toolbox.
And how does it work with NuGet?
Well, it doesn't. There's no NuGet there.
Because that was just the other.
Let's answer the question, actually.
Okay.
So Yeoman, for instance, which is the sort of a scaffolder for use with Node, is that's exactly that. That's scaffolding. Like templates are not scaffolded. We just released an update to our scaffolder, and it's now extendable. And today there's a blog post up on our team blog. So if you go to blogs.msdn.com/webdev, you can see how to use, how to create your own scaffolds in Visual Studio. So you can right-click and say, add scaffolded item, and then there's your own stuff like Angular or, whatever you can think of, right?
Sure.
So it is not a replacement for Yeoman. Maybe it's a competing thing, probably. They kind of, the scaffolding and the item templates sort of solve some of the same problems as Yeoman or Lineman or the other scaffolders out there. But they're more like it seems more natural in Visual Studio that you can just say add new item. You don't have to go to the command line. But the ideas are very similar.
Cool.
Yeah. And the new scaffolding that we're releasing today, guess where the new project template is? In Sidewaffle.
Sidewaffle.
Yeah. So go to sidewaffle.com and download it. There's videos there, so if you want to create your own template packs. I know Brady Gaster actually here, he was doing some sessions here, and he created a template pack with the demos that he showed in his session. So people can go download it.
File new Brady Gaster demo.
Yeah, and add new Brady Gaster item and stuff. Yeah, exactly.
Actually, somebody should really do that with Hanselman. Just had little pictures of him in the little preview. It'd be awesome.
Yeah.
So it looks like we need to wrap up. So coming up next is the other Mads Torgersen and Dustin Campbell. So what's new for C#? So it should be good. And Mads, thank you. Really appreciate the time.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.